Hi. I have been feeling very moved to say something given everything that's coming out in regards to Harvey Weinstein. As most of you know, I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and my abuser was, I don't know that he is anymore, but was a very successful person in my life. He was charming and funny, and the ladies always loved him, and he was very successful in his business. He worked for big companies, he threw a lot of money around, and a lot of people had a hard time understanding, including my own mother, why I didn't say anything. And my abuser is my father. And you can imagine, as a child, what it's like when you're in the world and you're learning things based on what your parents are telling you. And I grew up in a situation where my father, it seems like, was a lot like Harvey Weinstein. And a lot of these guys have a lot in common. And I say that because I've dedicated the last few years of my life, as much as possible, to working with other survivors, working with other women. And when I came out and shared my story, I think a lot of people were mortified. I think a lot of people felt that I was oversharing. And I think a lot of other people realized that it was okay. And I did that because of that result. I did that because every time I shared, women came forward. Today, I read an article in the New Yorker by someone who also has a lot of experience dealing with abusers, Ronan Farrow. And one of the women in the story is someone who we have had some interaction on social media, and seeing that this happened to her hit me. It struck me really deeply because I had no idea. I work in a business still where women are often criticized, sexualized, ignored, unheard, let go, because they bring allegations forward. I have seen it. I have had it happen to me. And the thing that makes me so hopeful is what we're experiencing today, based on the fact that women are sharing. What shocks me, but doesn't, is that Harvey Weinstein is not in prison. But it doesn't shock me because after so many years, so much work, when I went forward to the police, which was only a few years ago, with my story, my own father denied everything. He wouldn't speak to the police. When he was told that charges were being pressed, he had an opportunity to come here and face those charges, and he didn't. He hasn't. But yet, there's a warrant out for his arrest for sexual assault on me as a child. There were people when I came forward who were friends of my father's, acquaintances of my father's, ex-relationships of my father, who all knew he was a creep. So what we're seeing with Harvey Weinstein is that men, and some women, thank you, Donna Karen, are complicit. They are complicit in not wanting to stand up and say, this is wrong. And still, there have been reports that Variety has been trying to talk to many male actors and those who have worked with Harvey Weinstein who don't want to go on the record. And this is what's wrong. It's what's wrong with our society, and it's what creates more cycles of abuse. And the challenge is when we have such a community allowing men to behave this way and allowing it to continue, they're complicit in what's happening to us. So I wanted to say something because as proud as I am and as empowered as I am as a woman who has come out and said this happened to me, it's just as painful as it was when I came out with my story about my abuse to have people go, yeah, that doesn't really surprise me. Because it was the adults in my life who failed me. Okay? It's all the people who knew that my abuser was a creep and just decided not to say anything. And why that's important is because if any of those people would have decided to say something, maybe this wouldn't have happened to me. And when I see that there were decades of this going on with Weinstein and no one was saying anything, we all need to remember that the only reason people weren't saying anything was because of fear and money, power. And the thing is, we are seeing this unravel all around us, that kind of power isn't real power. It's abuse. And what I wanted to say today is that if you think that something like this has happened to you or is happening to you, that's a good indicator that it probably is. If you have to ask that question of whether something is inappropriate, it probably is. And I wish that 10 or 15 years ago that I would have been able to have some of these conversations to allow me to realize that the things that I grew up with were totally inappropriate. It took me years and years and years to process it. It took me years and years and years to accept it. It caused attempts on my life by my own hand. This is what happens. This is what happens when men sexually abuse, sexually harass women. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. It doesn't matter what kind of community you have around you. This kind of invasion, especially by someone who's powerful and who's well-liked in a community around you, makes it even more terrifying. So I wanted to say, I'm here. There's a lot of us. I might be the one who's talking all the time about it, but there's a community. There's a community of women. You're not alone. And please, men, if you've heard this, if you've experienced this, if you know about this, there is no reason to protect these people. We have to out these creeps. We have to protect each other. It doesn't have to get this bad. There doesn't have to be 10, 15, 20 victims, survivors. We don't have to have this go on. So what I wanted to say today is we're here. If you're not sure, if you're afraid, I'm here for you. I'm here for you.